The forgotten signal. The emergency beacon pulsed weakly through the debris field surrounding Research Station Omega, its rhythmic signal barely registering on Rook Harrison's systems. Most rescue workers would have missed it entirely, but 6 years of salvage operations in the Outer Rim had taught him to notice the smallest anomalies. He guided his medical transport closer, carefully navigating through the wreckage of what had once been humanity's most advanced xenobiology research facility. Station Omega, this is Medical Transport Sierra 9 responding to emergency signal, Rook transmitted, knowing he'd likely receive a no response. The station had been officially abandoned 3 months ago when the Meridian Corporation pulled out of the sector, citing security concerns. But something about this signal felt different from the usual distress beacons left behind by scavengers or trapped maintenance drones. The signal pulsed again, stronger this time. Rook's scanners indicated it was coming from the station's medical bay, tucked away in the facility's eastern wing. As he brought his ship alongside the airlock, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to stumble into something far more complicated than a simple rescue operation. The airlock cycled with a hiss, and Rook stepped into the darkened station. Emergency lighting cast long shadows through the corridors, and the air held the stale taste of a place long abandoned. His boots made hollow sounds against the metal floor as he made his way toward the medical bay, medical kit slung over one shoulder and plasma cutter holstered at his hip. The door to the medical bay was sealed, but not locked, another oddity that made Rook's trained instincts tingle with warning. He pressed the manual release, and the door slid open with a grinding protest. The sight that greeted him stopped him cold in the doorway. A Nephilim lay on one of the medical beds, her crystalline skin casting prismatic patterns across the walls from the emergency lights. The aliens were notorious for their isolation, having broken off diplomatic relations with humanity decades ago. Yet here one was, deep in human territory, barely clinging to life. Her breathing was shallow, the typical blue glow of her species dulled to a faint flicker. Multiple fractures were visible along her crystalline form, and what appeared to be some sort of virus or infection was spreading through her transparent body, clouding the usually clear crystal with dark patches. Well, Rook muttered, already pulling out his diagnostic scanner, this definitely isn't in any of the standard rescue protocols. The Nephilim's eyes opened, all 4 of them, focusing on Rook with surprising clarity. You should not be here, she managed in perfect standard English, her voice carrying the characteristic chiming undertone of her species. That makes 2 of us, Rook replied, running his scanner over her injuries. I'm Rook Harrison, Independent Medical Transport. Want to tell me why a Nephilim ambassador is hiding out on an abandoned research station? Her crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. How did you? The pattern of your core structure. Only the diplomatic caste has that particular crystalline formation. Rook studied the readings on his scanner with a frown. You've got multiple fractures throughout your primary matrix, and something's corrupting your cellular structure. Some kind of bioweapon? The ambassador's expression hardened. You must leave. Now. Before they return. They? The ones who did this. They believe I am already dead. If they discover otherwise. She broke off as a spasm of pain rippled through her crystalline form. Rook had spent years patching up the forgotten victims of corporate warfare and political machinations. He recognized the look of someone running from something far bigger than themselves. Standard procedure would be to call this in, let the authorities handle a situation involving a foreign diplomat. But standard procedure had never sat well with him. I've got a fully equipped medical bay on my ship, he said, already preparing a portable stasis field. It's not exactly rated for Nephilim physiology, but it's better than lying here waiting for whoever did this to come back and finish the job. The ambassador studied him for a long moment, her 4 eyes glowing with internal light. You do not understand the risk you take. Probably not, Rook agreed, activating the stasis field. But I've got a bad habit of helping people who need it, regardless of species or politics. Besides, you can explain everything once we're safely away from here. As he carefully transferred her to the portable stretcher, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Someone else had noticed the emergency beacon. The ambassador's glow pulsed with urgency. They are coming. Then we'd better move fast. Rook secured the stretcher and began quickly making his way back toward the airlock, keeping one hand near his plasma cutter. I don't suppose you'd care to tell me who they are? The ones who would see both our species destroy each other, she replied cryptically. And they are very, very close to succeeding. The sound of another ship docking echoed through the station's hull. Rook picked up his pace, knowing that whatever was coming, he'd just made himself part of something much bigger than a simple rescue mission. But as he glanced down at his injured passenger, seeing the determination in her crystalline features, he knew he'd made the right choice. Sometimes, he reflected, the most important decisions were the ones that broke all the rules. Breaking protocol. Rook's medical transport shuddered as it pushed through the debris field, emergency thrusters straining against the artificial gravity wake of their pursuers. In the medical bay behind him, monitoring equipment beeped steadily, tracking the vital signs of his crystalline passenger. Your ship is slower than I anticipated, the Nephilim ambassador observed, her voice carrying a slight resonance of pain despite her attempt at diplomacy. Sorry, the illegal rescue vehicle isn't up to diplomatic standards, Rook replied, eyes fixed on the navigation display. I don't suppose you're ready to tell me who's chasing us? Those ships don't match any registry I recognize. The ambassador's crystalline form flickered with what might have been hesitation. They are called the Symmetry. A group that exists in both our societies, working to ensure our species remain in conflict. Lovely. Rook banked hard to port, using a larger piece of debris as cover. And they want you dead because I discovered proof of their existence. Of their true purpose. Her voice grew weaker, and Rook's medical sensors showed another decline in her vital signs. The corruption in her crystalline matrix was spreading faster than his treatments could contain it. The pursuit ships fired again, their energy weapons cutting through space where Rook's ship had been moments before. He'd spent years learning to navigate the treacherous spaces between worlds, but these pilots were good. Too good. There's a medical sanctuary in the Helios cluster, Rook said, already plotting the course. They don't ask questions, don't care about species or politics. If anyone can treat whatever's corrupting your matrix, it's them. We cannot. The ambassador's voice was firm despite her weakness. The data I carry, it must reach the Coalition Council. Both human and Nephilim representatives must learn the truth, or everything will be lost. Another blast rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across Rook's console as the shields began to fail. Well, we're not going to reach any council if we're blown to atoms. I need options. The ambassador was silent for a moment, then spoke with renewed urgency. There is a place. An old Nephilim outpost in the Veil Nebula. My people abandoned it centuries ago, but its defensive systems remain active. If we can reach it, they'll still be able to track us, Rook pointed out, executing another evasive maneuver. No. The ambassador's glow pulsed stronger for a moment. The Veil Nebula's unique radiation signature disrupts standard tracking systems. It is why we chose it for the outpost. But the journey there will be difficult. Rook checked his displays again. The pursuit ships were gaining, their weapons becoming more accurate with each volley. The medical transport wasn't designed for this kind of sustained combat evasion. They needed a solution fast. Difficult, I can handle, he said, already adjusting their course. But first we need to lose our friends back there. How do you feel about gravity slings? The ambassador's crystalline features shifted in what might have been alarm. The maneuver you are suggesting has a significant probability of failure. Everything I do has a significant probability of failure, Rook replied with a grim smile. That's why I'm still alive. Hold on. He pushed the medical transport's engines to their limit, aiming for the nearby gas giant's gravitational field. The pursuit ships followed, their superior speed allowing them to close the gap. But Rook hadn't survived this long by playing it safe. The gas giant's massive gravity well caught them, and Rook used it to slingshot the ship in a tight arc, pushing the inertial dampeners to their limits. The ambassador's monitoring equipment screamed warnings as the G-forces threatened to shatter her already damaged crystalline form. But the maneuver worked. The pursuit ships, too focused on catching their prey, couldn't adjust their trajectory in time. The gas giant's gravity pulled them off course, sending them tumbling into a spiral that would take precious minutes to escape. That, the ambassador noted dryly, was extremely unpleasant. But effective, Rook countered, already plotting their course to the Veil Nebula. Now, while we have some breathing room, maybe you can tell me more about this symmetry group. Who are they really? What do they want? The ambassador's glow dimmed slightly. They believe that conflict between our species is inevitable. That peace would make us weak, vulnerable to greater threats. So they work to ensure that hatred and mistrust between humans and Nephilim never truly fade. By attacking their own people? By whatever means necessary. The ambassador's voice carried centuries of weariness. The data I carry proves their existence, their methods, their plans for escalating the conflict. But more importantly, it proves that they are wrong. That cooperation between our species is not just possible, but essential. Rook checked their course again. The Veil Nebula was still hours away, and he doubted the symmetry would give up the chase so easily. But as he looked back at his passenger, seeing the determination in her crystalline features despite her injuries, he knew they had to try. Well, he said, I guess we're about to prove them wrong again. He paused, realizing something. You know, you still haven't told me your name. The ambassador's form shimmered with what might have been amusement. In your language, the closest translation would be clarity. Clarity, Rook repeated, appreciating the irony. Right. Let's go make things clear for everyone. The medical transport pushed onward, leaving the gas giant behind as they raced toward the Veil Nebula. But both Rook and Clarity knew this was just the beginning. The symmetry wouldn't give up easily, and the corruption spreading through Clarity's matrix was a countdown they couldn't ignore. The truth had to reach the Council, no matter the cost. The future of both their species depended on it. Trust in darkness. The Veil Nebula lived up to its name, its swirling clouds of ionized gas creating sheets of purple and green light that danced across the medical transport's view screen. Rook guided the ship deeper into the celestial maze, following Clarity's quiet directions. The Nephilim ambassador's condition had worsened during their journey, the corruption in her crystalline matrix spreading like dark veins through her transparent form. The outpost's defense systems will not recognize your ship, Clarity warned, her voice weaker than before. We must transmit the correct sequence precisely, or they will destroy us before the symmetry has the chance. No pressure then, Rook muttered, adjusting their approach vector. The nebula's radiation was playing havoc with his instruments, making precise navigation a challenge. Any other surprises I should know about? Several. Clarity's attempt at humor was undermined by a spasm of pain that sent warning alerts cascading across the medical monitors. The corruption, it is progressing faster than anticipated. Rook glanced at his medical readings and felt his stomach tighten. The infection, or whatever it was, had spread to nearly 60% of her crystalline structure. At this rate, they had hours at most before it reached critical levels. Look, he said, keeping his voice steady, I'm not letting you die before we get this data to the Council. There has to be something in that outpost that can help. Your people's medical technology was not designed to combat this. Clarity's 4 eyes fixed on him with unexpected intensity. The corruption was engineered specifically for my species. A weapon created by the Symmetry to ensure their secrets died with me. The implications hit Rook like a physical blow. They have people inside the Nephilim medical community. Inside your research facilities. Just as they have infiltrated your own institutions. Clarity's glow pulsed weakly. Their influence runs deeper than either of our government's suspect. That is why the data I carry is so vital. It exposes not just their existence, but their entire network. A warning alarm cut through their conversation. Something was approaching through the nebula's charged gases, moving fast. The Symmetry had found them. Those navigation codes would be really useful right about now, Rook said, hands flying over the controls. Clarity began transmitting a complex series of crystalline harmonics, the sound making the ship's hull vibrate in sympathy. Ahead of them, barely visible through the nebula's shifting veils, a structure began to take shape. The abandoned outpost was smaller than Rook had expected, but its defensive arrays were impressive even after centuries of disuse. The pursuing ships emerged from the nebula's clouds, their weapons already charging. But before they could fire, the outpost's ancient defense systems sprang to life. Energy beams lanced out through the charged gases, forcing the Symmetry vessels to break formation. The outpost remembers, Clarity said, satisfaction coloring her chiming voice. Even after all this time, it protects its own. Rook guided their ship toward the outpost's docking bay, trusting in Clarity's codes to prevent the automated defenses from targeting them as well. Behind them, the Symmetry ships engaged in a deadly dance with the station's weapons, neither side able to gain a clear advantage. The docking bay's massive doors opened at their approach, revealing a cavernous space filled with abandoned Nephilim technology. Rook set the medical transport down as gently as he could, already gathering the portable medical equipment he'd need to move Clarity. The Central Archives, Clarity directed, her voice barely above a whisper now. We must reach them before. She trailed off as another spasm racked her crystalline form. Rook's scanner showed her vital signs dropping dangerously low. The corruption had reached her core matrix, threatening to shatter her from within. Stay with me, he urged, carefully transferring her to the hover stretcher. We didn't come all this way just to fail now. The outpost's interior was a maze of crystalline architecture, its surfaces reflecting and refracting the emergency lights from Rook's equipment. Ancient Nephilim technology hummed to life around them, responding to Clarity's presence despite her weakened state. They reached the Central Archives just as the first explosions echoed through the station. The Symmetry had breached the outer defenses. Here, Clarity gestured toward a crystalline interface panel. The data must be transferred to the outpost's systems. From there, it can be broadcast to both our governments simultaneously. The Symmetry will not be able to stop it. Rook helped her connect to the interface, watching as streams of data began flowing through the crystalline networks. But something was wrong. Clarity's glow was fading rapidly, the corruption accelerating as she pushed herself to complete the transfer. The data is not enough, she said suddenly, her voice urgent despite its weakness. They must understand, must see. She turned her 4 eyes to Rook. Help me record a message. They need to hear the truth from someone who has seen both sides. Someone who chose to help despite every reason not to. The sound of weapons fire was getting closer. Rook knew they had minutes at most before the Symmetry reached them. But Clarity was right. Data alone wouldn't be enough to overcome generations of mistrust and manipulation. Tell me what to do, he said, already connecting his medical scanner to the outpost systems to record her vital signs as proof of the Symmetry's weapon. As Clarity began to speak, her voice carrying the weight of her final testimony, Rook stood guard. He had started this journey as a simple medical transport pilot, breaking protocol to help an injured alien. Now he was part of something much bigger, a chance to end centuries of manufactured hatred between their species. The Symmetry was coming, but they were too late. The truth was already spreading, carried on waves of light through the nebula's glowing veils, racing toward both human and Nephilim space. Change was coming, whether they were ready for it or not. The hidden truth. The ancient Nephilim outpost shuddered under the Symmetry's assault. Rook worked frantically at the crystalline interface, watching as Clarity's message transmitted through the nebula's charged particles. Her vital signs were critical now, the corruption having spread to nearly 80% of her matrix. The data is transmitting, he reported, but the Symmetry ships are trying to jam the signal. We need more power to punch through their interference. Clarity's glow flickered weakly as she accessed the outpost's systems. There is a way. The outpost's primary reactor, it can be overloaded. The resulting burst of energy would carry our transmission beyond their ability to block it. And destroy the station in the process, Rook finished, understanding her intent. How long? Minutes at most. But. She paused, another spasm of pain rippling through her crystalline form. I cannot complete the sequence alone. The corruption has spread too far. The sound of plasma weapons grew closer. The Symmetry forces had breached the inner defenses and were making their way toward the archive chamber. Rook checked his plasma cutter's charge, barely enough for a few shots. Talk me through it, he said, moving to the reactor controls. Just tell me what to do. Clarity began explaining the sequence, her voice growing weaker with each word. The reactor controls were designed for Nephilim physiology, but with her guidance, Rook's human hands could approximate the necessary interactions. The chamber door exploded inward in a shower of crystalline shards. Symmetry troops poured through, a mix of humans and Nephilim working together, proving the truth of everything Clarity had discovered. Their weapons were trained on both Rook and the ambassador. Step away from the controls, ordered a human officer, his face hidden behind a sleek combat mask. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed. It already has, Rook replied, continuing the reactor sequence without looking up. How many people have you killed to keep your secret? How many lives destroyed to maintain your artificial conflict? You understand nothing, a Nephilim soldier chimed in, her crystalline form pulsing with aggressive energy. Our work ensures survival. Without conflict, both our species would grow weak, vulnerable to the true threats that await in the dark between stars. We found them, Clarity's voice carried across the chamber, stronger now despite her failing body. The threats you speak of. They are in this room, wearing your faces, speaking your lies. The reactor's hum rose to a fever pitch as Rook input the final sequence. Warning klaxons began to sound throughout the station. The data is already transmitting, he announced, stepping back from the controls. In about 3 minutes, every human and Nephilim communication network will receive proof of your existence. Every agent, every operation, every manufactured conflict, all of it exposed. Then you'll die for nothing, the human officer snarled, raising his weapon. We'll simply deny everything. Your proof will be dismissed as fabrication, your deaths blamed on terrorists or pirates. No, Clarity's voice rang with certainty. Because you made a mistake. You believe that our species could never truly trust each other. That we would always choose fear over understanding. Her glow pulsed brighter for a moment as she looked at Rook. You were wrong. The reactor overload reached critical levels. Energy began arcing between the crystalline pillars of the archive chamber. The Symmetry troops opened fire, but Rook had already thrown himself behind a console, returning fire with his plasma cutter. Rook, Clarity called out, her voice almost lost in the chaos. The corruption, there's something you need to know. He glanced at her vital signs and felt his heart skip. The corruption had reached her core matrix, but it wasn't destroying her as they'd thought. It was changing her. It's not a weapon, she confirmed, her crystalline form beginning to emit a strange resonance. It's an evolution. The next step that the Symmetry fears so much. The proof that our species can do more than just cooperate, we can become something new together. The reactor's containment field failed. Energy flooded the chamber as the symmetry troops tried to fall back. Rook watched in awe as Clarity's form began to transform, the corruption revealing itself as a bridge between human and Nephilim biology. "The data," she said, her voice taking on new harmonics. "It's not just evidence of their crimes. It's the key to our future. A future they would deny us out of fear." The station's superstructure began to break apart as the reactor went critical. Rook made a decision. He'd broken protocol once to save Clarity. Now he would break it again to save what she represented. "Hold on," he said, already moving toward her with a desperate plan forming in his mind. "This isn't over yet." The Veil Nebula's charged gases swirled around the dying station, ready to carry their message to both civilizations. But first, they had to survive long enough to see what that message would bring. The true hidden truth wasn't just about the symmetry's existence. It was about the potential that lay between their species, a potential that could change everything, if they were brave enough to embrace it. The station's final moments approached, and with them, a choice that would reshape the future of both their kinds. Beyond borders. The ancient outpost was tearing itself apart. Energy from the overloading reactor coursed through its crystalline structure, turning centuries-old corridors into deadly mazes of fracturing crystal and arcing power. Rook worked frantically at his medical transport's controls, rerouting power and bypassing safety protocols as Clarity's transformation continued beside him. "The containment field won't hold much longer," he reported, watching as the corruption, no, the evolution, spread through her matrix in waves of iridescent light. "Whatever you're becoming, you need to become it faster." "The process cannot be rushed," Clarity responded, her voice now a complex harmony of tones that seemed to resonate with the ship itself. "But perhaps it can be shared." Before Rook could ask what she meant, tendrils of crystalline energy extended from her transforming form, reaching toward him. He instinctively pulled back, but her four eyes held his gaze. "Trust," she said simply. "One last time." The remaining symmetry forces were regrouping in the corridor outside. Their weapons' fire peppered the hull of the medical transport, seeking weaknesses. The reactor's overload was approaching critical mass, and their window for escape was closing fast. Rook made his choice. He'd come too far to stop trusting now. The crystalline tendrils touched his skin, and the world exploded into new dimensions of sensation. He felt the ship around them not as metal and circuits, but as an extension of consciousness. The nebula's charged gases sang with information, carrying their message far beyond the dying station. And Clarity, he finally understood why the symmetry was so afraid. They feared this connection, she explained, her thoughts flowing directly into his mind. The true potential when our species come together not in conflict, but in harmony. Through their shared awareness, Rook saw the fuller truth. The symmetry hadn't just manipulated their peoples into conflict, they had actively suppressed evidence of natural hybridization occurring between humans and Nephilim. The corruption in Clarity's matrix wasn't a weapon or a disease, it was the next step in both their species' evolution, a bridge between crystalline and organic life. "The station's about to go," Rook said, both aloud and through their new connection. "But the symmetry ships are blocking our escape vector. Then we make our own path." Clarity's transformed body pulsed with energy that synchronized with the ship's systems. Together, the medical transport's engines roared to life, enhanced by the crystalline energy flowing through its circuits. Rook felt every system, every response as if the ship were his own body. More than that, he felt Clarity's presence guiding him, showing him possibilities that neither human nor Nephilim technology alone could achieve. They burst from the docking bay as the first explosions began consuming the station. The symmetry ships opened fire, but their weapons couldn't track the medical transport's new flight pattern, a dance of human intuition and Nephilim precision that defied conventional physics. Through the nebula's glowing veils, they wove an impossible path. The pursuing ships tried to follow, but their rigid tactics, their inability to embrace the very synthesis they feared, made them predictable. One by one, they fell behind or withdrew, unable to match the perfect fusion of human and Nephilim capability. The message, Rook thought/spoke as they emerged from the nebula's edge. Did it get through? Clarity's consciousness brushed his, sharing the confirmation. Their transmission had reached its targets. Already, secure channels were lighting up with activity as both governments faced evidence they couldn't ignore. The Symmetry's carefully maintained walls of division were crumbling. But this, she added, meaning their shared transformation, this is the true message. Not just proof that our species can coexist, but that we can evolve together. Become something greater than the sum of our parts. Behind them, the ancient outpost finally succumbed to the reactor overload. The explosion sent a shockwave through the nebula's gases, creating a new pattern in its cosmic dance. A pattern that, like them, represented change that could never be undone. They'll come looking for us, Rook noted, feeling the first stirrings of response from both human and Nephilim space forces. Both sides will want to understand what we've become. Let them come, Clarity replied, her transformed body now perfectly integrated with both Rook and their ship. We are no longer bound by their borders or their fears. We are the bridge they never knew they needed. The medical transport turned toward open space, its hybrid systems humming with possibilities. Behind them, the nebula continued its ancient dance, now carrying a message of change to two civilizations that had forgotten how to hope for something better. They had started as rescuer and refugee, human and alien, each bound by the limitations of their species. Now they were something else, living proof that the greatest barriers were the ones built by fear, and that trust, even in the darkest moments, could light the way to evolution itself. The stars beckoned, promising new horizons for those brave enough to reach across the void. And in the space between species, between crystalline and organic, between what was and what could be, a new future was already taking shape. The rescue mission was over. The real journey was just beginning.